On April 3rd, 1817, a strange woman was found wandering the streets of Almondsbury, England. Unable to speak English, she was taken to the local magistrate and his wife, the Worralls. Taking pity on her, the Worralls accepted Princess Caraboo of Javasu into their home. Hello, and welcome back to Weird Women of History. Found in a simple yet elegant fashion of the times, she wore a turban around her head, a shawl around her shoulders, and a black linen muslin dress. Clergymen brought books and maps to the house, hoping to discover the girl's origin. While she was unable to pinpoint the country that she came from, she was able to communicate that she recognized Chinese imagery within the books. Fed up with the nonsense, Mr. Worrall sent her to St. Peter's Hospital for vagrants. While there, she was visited by multiple travelers and sailors hoping to recognize the language that she spoke. She stayed there for less than a week, and Mrs. Worrall, who had grown fond of the girl, ended up returning and bringing her back to Almondsbury. Upon returning to the care of Mr. and Mrs. Worrall, it became imperative that the two discover this strange woman's country of origin. Many visitors came to call upon the stranger, hoping to decipher the language that she spoke. The only word recognizable to the Worralls was that the girl referred to herself as Caraboo. The only thing the locals could determine was that she wasn't English, not only because of her language, but because of her looks. She had dark hair, dark eyes, and tanned skin that was unusual for the area. Another reason for this conclusion was the fact that the girl refused to eat any meat, drink any alcohol, and prayed to a god that she called Allah. Multiple men who came to call upon the girl had different stories and accounts of where they believed she could possibly be from. A man who wrote to Mrs. Worrall in a letter had written, "I left England a few days after I had the pleasure of seeing you in Bristol, and on my return to this country, about a week ago, I found in an Edinburgh newspaper a full account of the circumstances attending this unknown lady since she was found near the knoll. This revived, or rather added to my desire of finding out her country, and I think at last that I have got a clue to it. I think her name is not Caraboo, as stated in the newspapers, but rather that it is her country. I consider that she comes from the Bay of Carabaa on the eastern coast of the Caspian Sea, and situated in independent Tartary. She may have easily come from thence by Persian Gulf, or still more easily by the Black Sea. The latter I consider by the far more likely, as many vessels, many hundreds, have come from the Black Sea to the European ports in the Mediterranean since the commencement of the present year. I leave these observations, madam, to your consideration." Another man, Portuguese, who had lived in the Malay country for many years, came forward claiming that he could understand parts of her story. In Manuel's translation of the story, he claimed that she had been a woman of influence and captured by pirates, only to be held captive for months. Spotting a shore in the distance, she took her first chance to escape and swam all the way to the shores of England. There she had been wandering the countryside for weeks until coming across the kind care of the Worralls. In the 3 months she stayed with the Worralls, another man came forward, a Dr. Wilkinson, that claimed that he could translate her story even further. According to this version of the tale, her father was a Chinese immigrant and her mother a Malay woman. Together, they had lived very comfortably off the coast of Japan. Princess Caraboo was also eager to show off traditional dances from her country, the fashions that were popular there, and excelled in sports such as archery and swordsmanship. This led the doctor to believe that she had been a warrior woman from Javasu. She was a warrior woman who had narrowly escaped pirates, and swimming ashore to the English coast, she had wandered alone and destitute for weeks until coming into the kind, charitable home of Mr. and Mrs. Worrall. She was beautiful and brilliant and exciting for the time, and for months prints and newspapers reported on this mystical girl who was living in Almondsbury. But the most fascinating part of the story is that it was all fake. Princess Caraboo, the charming Easterner living in Almondsbury, England, was actually Mary Baker of Devonshire, a con artist who had previously disguised herself as a boy, a beggar, a nun, and a gypsy. Finally, Princess Caraboo came to fruition, and it had been her most successful con. After leaving life in London and abandoning a child and a husband, she ended up traveling with gypsies for 3 days to Bristol, where she lodged with a Mrs. Neales. Unhappy with life in England, Mary decided that she wanted to go to America. While in Bristol, she contacted a ship who offered to take her. However, she had to pay 5 guineas, a sum of money that she could not afford. So, she came up with a new con. While at the ports discussing passage to America, she came across 2 French women who were getting adoration from all sorts of men and women alike. And upon seeing how many people were drawn to these foreign women, Mary concocted an idea. She decided that she would portray herself as a foreigner lost in England, hoping to gain passage back to her homeland. Adopting a turban and speaking a language that was purely gibberish, she traveled to Almondsbury, where her story as Princess Caraboo began. However, her original plan was unsuccessful. The time that she needed to get money to go to America had been wasted, and the con had gone on too long. What should have only been 15 days in order to gain funds went on for 3 months. Upon discovering that the ship had sailed to America without her, she decided it was best to simply continue being Princess Caraboo. Her downfall came when Mrs. Niels happened to read about Princess Caraboo in the paper. Her plan failed spectacularly when Mrs. Niels happened to recognize the description of a Princess Caraboo as her former tenant. Mrs. Niels approached Mrs. Worrall in her home in Almondsbury, revealing the entire story of Mary Baker. Princess Caraboo succeeded in her story for so long because she did not slip up even once. She remained completely stoic when those would come and compliment her, saying she was the most beautiful woman they had ever seen. She kept a straight face when people offered her money, pretending that she didn't recognize the paper notes she was being handed. She never slipped up on her English, even going so far as pretending to sleep talk in her gibberish language. Her greatest asset was pretending that she spoke no English, allowing her to hear the stories travelers would come to tell Mrs. Worrall, and adapting such customs herself. After the scam had been revealed, and Mary Baker and Princess Caraboo were revealed to be the same person, Mrs. Worrall did the unthinkable. She sent Mary Baker to America. She happened to know a bunch of women who were going to teach in Philadelphia, and, securing and paying for her passage, she also took Mary Baker and bought her an entire wardrobe that would be suitable for the winter months in the United States. Once arriving in America, Mary Baker discovered that Princess Caraboo had been very popular, and for around a year ended up portraying her in local theaters, paying people to come see her act. However, after about 7 years, Mary decided that America wasn't for her, and packing up, returned to England. And that, my friends, concludes the story of Princess Caraboo of Javasu. This girl was, I don't want to say crazy, because interviews with her fathers and letters sort of imply that she may have had bipolar or some sort of mental health issue. However, she was damn clever to be able to pull off this scam for 3 months. And not only that, she just was obviously charming, for one, if she could scam Mrs. Worrall into believing that she was this foreign princess, and then even afterwards was able to get Mrs. Worrall to pay for her travels to the United States. That's pretty impressive. This is a pretty crazy lady. And also her account is way longer. Like, I summarized the hell out of all this because, let me tell you, there's some other crazy stories involving her disguising herself as a boy and getting kidnapped by thieves. They have multiple letters from her family discussing their relationship with her. I don't know. There's also a 1984 movie based off of Princess Caraboo, which I have not seen, but I plan on watching this weekend. Alright guys, thank you for watching. If you like Weird Women of History, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the bell notification. I upload a Weird Women of History every 2 weeks, and every other week I also do some sort of vlog or in-between type thing. Yeah. I want to say thank you to the 5 people who are subscribed to me. I know I'm like a nobody YouTuber who probably will never be big, but it just makes me happy to know that someone out there is watching my videos and actually cares. I'm done rambling. I'm going to release you guys. Thanks for watching. Love you. Bye. Bucky! Oh my god, my cat is doing the cutest thing. Okay, hold on. Bucky! Bucky! What are you doing? Oh my god!